Hi, welcome to my video on the review of relations and functions. The review, as some of the other topics, I have a total. This review is out of 64 marks. So on each page, you'll see a list of marks you get for each question. You can add up. I'll give you an example. You can see that each questions are worth 2, etc., etc., and you get a total of 14. On each page, you can mark your question, give yourself a mark for the questions you have right, and total the page. When you get them all done, total all the pages and put it over 64. Divide the numerator by 64 and get a decimal, and move your decimal 2 places to the right to get a percent. And if you want, pause your video before we start and get some blank sheets and work out the answers and see if you're going to do okay. This review is like a test, and it's as a result of reviewing all the videos on relations and functions. Here we go. State the independent and dependent variable for each. Y equals 2x plus 6. The independent variable is x. The dependent variable is y. The independent variable is s. The dependent variable is p. And notice that the values of y depend on what x is. The values of p depend on what s is. Which type of data does each represent? There's two types of data, discrete and continuous. Distance traveled at 70 kilometers an hour is continuous. The number of students in a school, if there are 30 students in each class, is discrete. And meaning discrete is dots. You can only have like a 1 class, 2 class, 3 classes. You can't connect up the data in between. Whereas as time goes by, your distance changes continuously all the time. And if you got the 2 of these right, give you 2 marks. If you got the 2 of these right, 2 marks. Each one of these right, give yourself 1 mark. Complete the chart. Discrete data. Discrete data, it belongs to the whole numbers, and that is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And discrete data is dots if you do a graph. The continuous data belongs to the real numbers, and that is the number line is shaded, or the graph is shaded. Number 4, the equation representing the number n of books in a library at a certain time t, if there are 500 books in the library starting off, and 20 books are added each day. So there's n books in the library, and there's 500 books in the library, so that's your intercept, and 20 books you're adding. 20 books are added each day, so that's a rate, so it's 20t plus 500. So 20 books per day is the slope or a rate, and t, so that's the equation in terms of n and t. Number 5, population P of a town is 40,000. Every 2 years, years is t, time, 100 people leave. So if 1,000 people leave every 2 years, so that means it's 500 in 1 year. But they leave, so it's a minus. So the rate is a minus 500. And there's 40,000 people. So, and P is population, so P equals slope or rate, 500, and T is time, and we have the value that we start off at as 40,000. So notice the rate is negative because they're declining. Give yourself a mark for that one. Find the population after 25 years. So that means T is 25. So let's take the equation 500t and sub in 25 in the place of t. 25 times t is a negative, 500 times 25 is 12500 plus 40, and that comes out to be 27500 is the number of people that are left after 25 years. Give yourself a mark if you're right. When will the population be 35 tau? So that means that P is 35 thou. So we put 35,000 in the place of P, which is right there, and we write the rest of the equation down, fill it out. And so negative 500 becomes 500t equals 40,000 minus 35,000. So that's 500t equals, and we subtract that and we get 5,000, and we divide by 500, and 500 cancels out, so t equals, the zeros cancel, 10 years. In 10 years pass, there will be 5,000 people less, and you subtract and you get 35 thou. So total up your page and put your mark here. How many did you get right? Hopefully everything is going okay. Number 6, the ordered pairs represent which mapping? These ordered pairs, 1 and 2, 1, x, y, 3 and 2, 6 and 2. So let's look at the mapping. Let's just do a mapping and see. We have a 1, a 3 and a 6. 1, a 3 and a 6 is x. We have a 2 and only 1, 2. So 1 goes to 2, 3 goes to 2, 6 goes to 2. So is a 1 to 1? No. It looks like it's many to 1. So B is the answer. Many of these only go to, so all these x's only go to 1y. And all the x's going to 1y, if you think about it, if you had a 1 comma 2 is there, 3 comma 2 is there, 6 comma 2 will be there, so you got a horizontal line. Number 7, classify each line as a mapping of 1 to 1, many to 1, or 1 to many. X equals 2, so if x equals 2, x is always 2. So if x is 2, y is 0. If x is 2, y is 1. If x is 2, y is 2. X is 2, y is negative 1. So that looks like we have many 1x going to many y's. So what we have is 1x going to many y's, so we have 1 to many. And y equals 3x, that's y-intercept is 0, and the slope is 1, there's a 0 there, and the slope is 1. We rise 3, and we run 1, so there's the graph of it, and for each x there's exactly 1 y, so that's a 1 to 1. For each x there's only 1 y. Y equals 3 is y is always 3. 1, 2, 3. Y is 3, x is 0. Y is 3, x can be 1. Y is 3, x can be 2. So that looks like it's many to 1. Many to 1 is a horizontal line. 1 to many is a vertical line. And give yourself the mark if you're right. Number 8, graph each set of all x, y, such that y equals 2x minus 1, where negative 1 is less than or equal to x is less than 2 and belong to the integers. So we have a negative 1, we have a 0, we have a 1, and we do not have a 2. We can't put a 2 in here. So when we put 1 in here, negative 1 in here, we get 2, negative 1 minus 1. That gives us negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. when we put a 0 in here, 2 times 0 is 0, minus 1 is negative 1. When we put a 1 in for x, 2 minus 1 is 1. So when we graph these, notice we're graphing the integers, so we can only graph the ordered pairs. X is negative 1, y is negative 3. X is 0, y is negative 1. X is 0, y is negative 1. And x is 1, y is 1. When x is 1, y is 1. So these are the only dots that we can have on our graph because they're integers, and integers are dots. You can't shade them in. And this one, B, the set of all x and y such that y equals negative 2x. X is greater than negative 2, and we're shading for the real numbers. Real numbers we got to shade in. So x is greater than negative 2. So because it's real numbers, we have to start with a negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is a 4. Then we can have negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 2 is 2, 0. Negative 2 times 0 is 0. And we're going greater, so negative 2 for x gives me 4 for y. Negative 2 for x gives me 4 for y, that's 1 point. Negative 1 for x gives me 2 for y. Negative 1 gives me a 2. 0 gives me a 0. And if you notice, we have, this is real numbers, so we can shade in, but the thing is, we can't have negative 2. So this is a hollow dot here. Even though I put a dot at the beginning, I had to go back and say, that's hollow. It can't have that starting out. So this is the graph. We have to shade it in because it said real numbers greater than 2. So notice all these values of x start at negative 2 and go on up to infinity. And notice the y starts at 4 and goes down. So that's the graph, and it's a shading, but the endpoint is not included because it's not equal to negative 2. But we could have had negative 1.5, we would have picked up that point. We could have had negative 0.5, we picked up that point. But we can't have negative 2 because it didn't say equal to. Give yourself a mark for the table and a mark for the dots. Give yourself another mark for the table and the line with the endpoint, or the ray with the endpoint. You could total the page when you finish. Pause the video. Treat it as a test. And how well do you, if you reviewed all my videos. But even if you didn't review, if you did a review of this and you didn't get a good mark, it'd be wise to go back and review all my videos, because the idea of a function is very important. Number 9, state the domain and range of each. The domain is the independent variables x, negative 1, 1, and 3. Negative 1, 1, and 3. The range is the y values, 2, 5, and 7. Another ordered pair, I have the domain is the x's, 3, 3, and 7. I just say 1, 3 to do it, and a 7. And the range is the y values, 4, 6, and 11. And if you got 2 of these right, 2 marks. You got 2 of these right, 2 marks. If you only got 1 right, you judge yourself. The distance traveled after a number of hours. So the domain is the time or hours, whatever way you want to say it, time or hours, and the range is the distance. D, if you think of it, D equals some rate times time. So that's the independent, that's the dependent. Domain is x, the range is the y. And in this one, the domain is n, and the range is c. Again, the domain, think of the domain as being independent, and think of the range as being dependent. Like if you think about x's and y's, the y value depends on x. when you think about this equation, c equals 4n. The c depends on what n is. Number 10, state the inequality and the interval notation for each. We have a graph here, and the inequality starts at -1 and it goes to 0. And if we say x and is equal to, less than equal to, and less than. So -1 is less than 0, so x goes in the middle and use less than. Because as a solid is equal to, as a hollow is not equal to. And the interval notation is, this is a square bar with a -1, comma, 0 with an open bar. So the square bar means that it's included. And this inequality is 1 is greater than 3, so x is greater than 1. It's not equal to because of the hollow dot. X is greater than 1, but not equal to 1. Notice these are shadings, so they're real numbers. We don't have to say real numbers because anytime a shading is real numbers. And it's starting at 1, so it's opened at 1, and it's going to the right, so the right is positive infinity, or just infinity, and it's open at infinity. And this one is going to the left, starting at 0, so left is less than, so x is less than, because of the solid dot is equal to, and starting at 0. So you can write this down two ways. You can go with an open bar, 0, and say negative infinity. You can do that, because if you start at 0 and go to negative infinity, which means really that you're going left, or you may do this. You can go this, 0, and negative infinity. It's your choice. Either or. Ask your teacher. Make sure. Either way, just because that's going left don't mean you got to write it this way. You could also write it this way. Number 11, state the domain and range of each. We have a graph, and domain is the x values. Remember, I mentioned x and y alphabetically is D and R. D is before R, X is before Y. Domain is X. So what X values are in this graph? The X values are -1 to a 1. -1, X to a 1. And -1 is not equal to, whereas 1 is equal to. Is less than equal to. That was a 1 I was supposed to put there. And we have all real numbers, and also the notation. If you want, you may go with open 1 and a close at 1. You may do, if you want to do the interval notation. And the range is the y values. The y values in this graph are, smallest one is -2, the largest one is 1. So you're going from a -2 to a 1. And a -2 is not equal to, and the 1 is equal to. So notice again, I went from negative, less, negative is smaller than 1. So I go from the smallest to the largest with less than signs. And this one is -2, comma, 1. There's the interval notation, either or. And B, domain and range again. And if you have either one of these right, you don't have to do both. If you get these right, give yourself 2 marks. Now we have a line that's slanting upwards to the right, and it's an arrow on each end. So the domain is the set of real numbers. All the x's are in this graph. This line keeps going up and up and up, and it keeps going down and down and down. So this line represents all the numbers on the x-axis. And that means it's open to negative infinity, comma, going to positive infinity, open. So this is the interval notation. And the range is also all the y's. As this goes up, the y's keep getting larger, and as this goes down, the y's keep getting smaller. So y belongs to the reals, and x or y for reals, we still write it the same way. because all the y's are in this graph. And give yourself 2 marks if you got both of these right. 18 for that page. Let's continue. State the domain and range of each of these graphs. These graphs are different or non-linear. So it's just a review. The domain is x, and the x values here start at -1 and they go to the right. So the x is greater than -1. Not equal to because of the hollow dot, but they're greater. Notice there's no x's on the left side. All the x's are on the right side, like -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 1.5, 1 3/4, all the x's. And the interval for that, it's open at a -1 going to positive infinity, if you want to use the interval, either or. And what y values are in this graph? Well, the y values are starting at 2. Starts at 2, and they're going down, so down is less than. And notice it's not equal to 2 because it's a hollow dot. And that could be at open at 2, going down is less than. It's going to negative infinity. And B, we have what we call, if you're in grade 9 or 10, this is what we call a parabola, but I didn't want to call it that. I just wanted to draw the graph. The domain is, notice this goes up and up and up. All the x's are on the right side, and all this goes up and up and up. And as you go out, this keeps going up higher. So the domain here is x belongs to the reals, and it's negative infinity to positive infinity for the real numbers. And the y values, well, notice that y is, let's put a -2 right here. -0 is in the graph, 1 is in the graph, 2 and 3 and so on. -1 is in the graph, but below the -1 is not in the graph. So the y values, y is less than or equal to -1. Equal to because that dot is shaded, is equal to it. Oh, did I say less than? No, that was careless of me. Greater than. Sorry about that. Greater than is above, because you got -1, you got a 0, you got a 1, you got a 2 in your graph. And in the interval notation is -1, and it's going to positive infinity. Oh, I'm saying one thing, I'm writing down another. So that's a -1. It's starting at -1, and it's, I better be careful. It's included. I got an equal sign, so that means it's a square box for it's included. The open one means not included. Sorry about that. Talking too much and not explaining enough. We have 3 ordered pairs, 1, 3, 2, 4, 5, 6. Does the ordered pairs represent a function? And we had to explain it by the definition of a function. Well, the definition means for each value, for each x value, there is only one y value. For each x, there's only one y. X is 1, and there's no other y. X is 2, y is 4. So yes, it's a function because it obeys the definition. For each x, there's exactly one y. Or another way we might say it is that x doesn't repeat. So for each x, there's exactly one y. So give yourself 2 marks if you said yes, and if you explained yourself. Does the graph represent a function? And explain by the vertical line test. And the answer is no. And the vertical line test, if you draw a vertical line, if I draw a vertical line like this, it passes through this point and this point. If I draw a vertical line, it passes through this point and this point. If I draw this vertical line, it passes through these 2 points. If I draw through these 2 points, so a vertical line, this is not a function because the vertical line passes through 2 points. That means you can see that the x's, if I take two ordered pairs, any two, if I take this one, x is 0, y is 1, x is 0, y is -1, that's one set of ordered pairs. Or another good set is x is 2, y is 2, or x is 2, y is -2. Notice for each x, there should only, when x is 2, there's two y values. So the x is repeating. So it fails the vertical line test. Give yourself 2 marks. Express y as a function of x. That means I gotta have solved the equation for y. Y is on the left side and x is on the right side. So we solve the equation for y. -4y is -6x plus 20. Divide by -4. Cancels. I get a y. 6 and 4. 2 into 6 goes 3. 2 into 4 goes 2. X, negative over negative is positive. And 20 divided by 4 is 5. And a positive divided by negative is negative. So that's y as a function of x. So if you attempted to write it in this form, you get a mark. If you got the correct answer, you get a mark. Total up your page and see what you have out of 10. So each time you total a page, pause the video. You can pause the video and work at your answers. Pause the video to do your score and everything. Number 16. If twice the length plus 10 is 4 times the width, express the length as a function of the width. So twice the length plus 10 is 4 times the width. Notice L is the length and width is W. So from this equation right here, from this sentence, I wrote out this. Express the length as a function of the width. Remember, length as a function of the width. That means the length is on the left side, the width is on the right side. So I have to solve for L. So 2L equals 4W minus 10. And divide by 2. L equals 2W minus 5. Notice I'm writing all my equations in the form of y equals mx plus b in that form. Express the area of the rectangle as a function of x. The area A as a function of x. So we know that a rectangle, we say it's a rectangle, so I'll put all the right angles in there. And the area of a rectangle is length times width, but this means the area is a function of the length and the width. But we want it not length, not width, we want it x. So the length is 2x plus 7, and the width is 3x. And people say, well, how do you know? Well, just take any number at all. Take any value of x. Take x to be 1. If you took x to be 1, 2 times 1 is 2 plus 7 is 9. If you take x to be 1, same as I did here, this would be 3. So that's the length and that's the width if you put 1 in for x. If you put 2 in for x, you get 4 plus 7 is 11 and 6. So this is always the length and that's the width. And you can't put 0 in because 3 times 0 is 0 and you have no width. You can't put a negative in because 3 times a negative number gives you a negative width. So you can put any number greater than 0 in here for x and you can see that that's the length and that's the width. Anyway, the area is a function of length and width. We replace the length and the width with x's. So 3x times 2x is 6x squared. And 3x times 7 is 21x. Or you could go 2x times 3x is 6x squared, and 7 times 3x is 21x. And the area is now, again, the area is on the left and x is on the right. Give yourself 2 marks. If you roll it down like this, perfect. And if you worked it out to 6x squared plus 21x, 2 marks. Express the volume of a cylinder as a function of a radius if h equals 6r. So the volume of a cylinder is a cylinder is a pi r squared h. Remember, a cylinder, it looks like this. So the area of the area is the volume is the base area. Volume is base area times height, and the base of a cylinder is a circle, so it's pi r squared h. Okay, and we want, notice the volume is a function of r and h. Pi is constant. Pi is 3.14. It's a constant and not a variable. But we don't want it as a function of r and h. We want it as a function of r. So that means h has to be replaced, substituted for. So h equals 6r. Done. And when you multiply that out, you get 6 times pi, 6 pi. R squared times r is r cubed. So there's the volume as a function of the radius. So volume is equal to 6 pi r. The volume is on the left, radius is on the right. So the h is replaced by r. And give yourself 2 marks, 1 for the equation, 1 for just working it out. F of x equals 6x plus 12. Find each. The f of negative 2. So that means that's the f of x. That means x is negative 2. So I put a negative 2 in the equation in place of x. X is negative 2. Negative 2 go here. That's a 12 plus 12. Negative times negative positive. And 12 plus 12 is 24. Now, find x if the f of x is negative 30. So notice that the f of x is 6x plus 12. Notice here, f of x is a negative 30. The f of x is here twice. That means that negative 6x plus 12 must be negative 30 by transitive property. And we take our time and solve this out. Negative 6x equals negative 30 minus 12. Negative 6x equals negative 42. And we divide by negative 6, and x becomes 7. And you get a, when you're finished, you mark for this one, mark for this one, and this one. Notice we don't here, we have a negative 2 going in the place of x. Now we have, in the place of x, we have to put, notice, we have to put negative 2/3 x plus 4. So instead of a negative 2 or a 3 or a 4 going in, we have to take this expression and put it in the place of x. So notice x, there's the expression, and we multiply. Negative 6, and we multiply negative 6 times negative 2/3, just to show that. The 3 into negative 6 goes negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 gives me 4x. And negative 6 times 4 is negative 24 plus 12. So that's 4x minus 12 it works out to be. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 marks. Put your score there. Number 20. If the g of x equals 4x and the p of x is 3x minus 2, we want to find the g of a negative 5, subtract the p of 2. Well, what I do is I put brackets around that one, subtract, I put brackets around that one. So I do a set of brackets for the g, set of brackets for the p, I work both brackets out and then I subtract after. So g of a negative 5. So g of a negative 5 is 4 bracket negative 5. Subbed in there. The p of 2, x is 2 going in here. So it's 3 bracket 2 minus 2. So notice the big brackets. See? And you're going to work those brackets out. So that big bracket, I multiply this to get a negative 20. So that's done. Now I work this bracket out. So if you do this one fast, you get, I got 3 times 2 is 6, minus 2 is 4. So I got a negative 20, subtract 4, so that's a negative 24. And you give yourself 3 marks. You give yourself 1 mark for getting this one right, 1 mark for getting this one right, and 1 mark for this answer. Total up your page. And we have the last question, number 21. Find each. We have a graph here. And it says we want to find the f of -1. That means the f of x. That means x is -1. So we look for x is -1, x is -1, 0 there, x is -1. So we have -2. Remember, the f of x is your y. The f of x is your y in a graph. In an ordered pair, when we look at an ordered pair, remember x comma y, the ordered pair becomes x bracket f of x. So don't forget, the f of x is your y value. So when x is -1, what's y? B, find x if the f of x is 1. So the f of x, let's see, the f of x is your y. So that means, this question means that y equals 1. So where is y1? Y-axis, y is 1 right here. So the f of x is 1. Y is 1 when x is 1. So x equals 1. So remember, the f of x is your y. So where is y1? Y is 1 when x is 1. And give yourself 1 mark each. And that's a total on the page of 2. And take all yours, use my arm there, take all your pages and add them all up and come back to the first page. Total all your pages, come back to the first page, and when you get them added up, put it over 64. Use a calculator or divide 64 into, put a pencil, and change it to a decimal, and 2 places to the right will give you a percentage. Hopefully you understand video on relations and functions. And if you didn't, review some sections that you might have trouble with. Hopefully you got a good mark. If you like my video, click the like button. If you're in subscribe button, if you're not a subscriber, notification bell, more videos coming your way. Write a comment on my video if you wish. And visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com. And 3 sections, me, my degrees and teaching experience. Video section talks about the strategies you're going to use to help you learn your math. And the content section has the videos and the number of videos and the topics that I have online. Black font is what's online right now, and the red font is what will be on the line in the near future. Future videos coming your way. Thank you. Bye-bye.